Just give me 1 second. And Lydia, can you give me a heads up or not a heads up, a thumbs up if that's sharing? Awesome. All right, so it should be in the full screen mode. Okay. Alrighty, next slide. So yes, welcome to River Rally. During this presentation, we have a few different exciting agenda items for you today, and those are 2024 accomplishments. And here we'll talk about our work with the Clinton River Coldwater Conservation Project, or CRCCP, and the work that happened in 2024 for that. We'll highlight the 2024 fieldwork for CRWC, and intertwined with all that, we'll celebrate our dedicated volunteers and their impact. After that, we'll have our 2024 Adopt a Stream data, sharing results from across the watershed. Then we'll head into our 2025 data dashboard debut. We're pretty excited about this. We have a new data dashboard that is available on our website now, that hosts all of the Adopt a Stream data. And then our 2025 volunteer opportunities, how you can get involved in the coming months, will be to wrap up our presentation. So I'm going to go ahead and get started here on our 2024 accomplishments. So in the next few slides, I'm going to give you an overview of the 2024 accomplishments, and this was all made possible thanks to our dedicated volunteers and collaborators. So first up, we have our Trout Creek Dam removal. So as you can see in that left-hand top photo there, the Trout Creek Dam, which is in Bald Mountain, was removed in January 2023. And it was removed in collaboration with the DNR, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, and CRWC. And this reconnected 1.25 miles of stream for fish passage and improved habitat. You may be familiar with this because last year, a lot of our volunteers helped plant over 1,300 native herbaceous plants and trees at the site. And in 2024, we continued that restoration work, planting 27 trees at the site. And we also monitored for how the habitat and stream is progressing. So we wrapped up work at this site in 2024, but we're really excited to see how those native plants and trees become established and grow into a canopy into this future. So you can visit this one at the Bald Mountain Recreation Area and see how the site is progressing yourself. In August, we were able to help the Vanguard and Michigan chapters of Trout Unlimited with the Paint Creek fish population monitoring. And this was a survey to evaluate how the Vanguard chapter's habitat improvement projects have impacted the fish populations of Paint Creek. And we're happy to announce that we saw quite a diversity of fish species. A couple of those are shown on screen here, from rainbow and brown trout to northern log perch shown there in the bottom left of the 4 photos, and sculpin. It was impressive to see how the fish are using these new habitats installed by the chapter, and to see also to see the collaboration out in the field at work. So we were really excited to participate in this collaborative effort for the Clinton River Coldwater Conservation Project, or CRCCP, and are looking forward to the next opportunity. Another CRCCP collaborative effort is the Clinton Valley Trout Unlimited's Paint Creek Stream Gauge. So this is a stream gauge that CRWC monitors and maintains in collaboration with Clinton Valley Trout Unlimited, and it's located in Rochester Municipal Park. You can see there on the map about where it is, and a photo of the actual station on the graph there. This graph is showing temperature in the May period of this past year. As you can see, there's some diurnal fluctuations in temperature, but a lot of people use this tool, anglers, the general public. This data is accessible to everyone in real time to see what the temperature, conductivity, and turbidity of Paint Creek is. We did have a few technical issues in the late summer at the station, but we are working to get these issues resolved and plan to have this resource, this Paint Creek stream gauge, back going up in the spring. In 2024, we also had this eutrophication sampling. So this was year one of eutrophication sampling, which sounds like jargon, but it means that we monitored nutrient levels in the water at different locations across the watershed. You can see our environmental science interns in the water there at Paint Creek monitoring different water quality parameters. And this is as a part of the Clinton River Area of Concern. So the Clinton River watershed was designated as an area of concern in 1987 under the Great Lakes Water Quality Agreement. And our watershed still holds this designation. Lots of restoration work has been completed all across our watershed to address this area of concern and 8 different categories of environmental degradation. This nutrient monitoring or eutrophication goes to address one of those categories, and that is the eutrophication or undesirable algae category. So that's just a little bit of background, but towards this last summer, we monitored 24 sites across the watershed monthly during May, June, July, and August. We took a total of 108 water samples, and all these water samples were tested for different nutrient levels, 5 different parameters, such as nitrogen and phosphorus. And these sampling results are going to help CRWC and the Clinton River Public Advisory Council determine and address sources of nutrients in our watershed. So we're excited to continue this work in 2025. Our next 2024 highlight is the Red Swamp Crayfish Project. Some of you might be familiar with this as it was presented on at the last River Rally. But this project is a partnership between the Clinton River Watershed Council, the Friends of the Rouge, and the Michigan DNR. And it's focused on early detection of red swamp crayfish and assessment of native crayfish populations. And this is both within the Rouge River and the Clinton River watersheds. And red swamp crayfish, if you're not familiar, they're an aquatic invasive species in Michigan, and they're known to cause severe habitat degradation and negatively impact both other aquatic organisms and aquatic communities. So a really important species to be keeping an eye out for in our state. There are 2 known red swamp crayfish populations in our watershed. And these ones are managed by the Lake St. Clair SSMA. In 2024, we surveyed 15 sites across the watershed, and we're happy to announce that no red swamp crayfish were captured in those traps. And that was in addition to 15 sites that we monitored last year. So a total of 30 sites that we monitored without catching any red swamp crayfish. So an encouraging sign for the watershed, although something to still be keeping an eye out, seeing as how there are populations in our watershed. And these are some photos from the field. We had sampling in different ponds, and you can see that crayfish there on the right. That's a native crayfish, just to just to show you a little example of what we were seeing out there. We also developed educational flyers in 4 languages to help increase people's awareness and recognition of this invasive species. And we're encouraging residents to keep an eye out and report any suspected red swamp crayfish. Moving on to our volunteer programs, we have our Keeping It Clean program. And this is a program that encourages watershed residents to get involved in improving the health and natural beauty of our watershed by participating in regularly scheduled trash cleanups. You can see some of those cleanups here on screen, from pieces of trash that were removed or the weighing and collecting process there. So in 2024, 5,388 pounds of trash was collected by 741 volunteers through this program. And this program goes from spring through the fall every Wednesday, and it's held in different parks around the watershed. So location changes every week. So we really can't thank our dedicated volunteers enough. 5,388 pounds of trash is a lot of trash that's being kept out of our waterways. And so we are really looking forward to another year of trash collection and keeping our waterways safe in 2025. Next, we have our stonefly search. So last February in 2024, we held a stonefly search, and this is our annual winter volunteer bug sampling event. And this is a one-day event. So during this event, volunteers canvass for this winter stonefly population at different locations across the watershed. So you can see a picture of a stonefly there in that orange box to give you an idea. They're way smaller than that in reality, but this is the bug that is active in winter because it has antifreeze in its blood, and it's a really great indicator of water quality. So that's why we have volunteers going out to look for this bug in the winter, because we're trying to evaluate stream health even during the cold winter months. And so, yes, when we find them, their presence show us that we have good water quality. So this past year, we had 61 dedicated volunteers that braved that snow and cold weather on the day of the event. And as you can see from these photos, they had a lot of fun doing it. They monitored 12 sites all across the watershed and found 132 stoneflies. CRWC mapped the results of the stonefly search, and you can see them on the screen here. As you can see, the sites spanned all over the watershed, and the green boxes are sites where stoneflies were common. The blue boxes are sites where stoneflies were rare, and then the orange boxes are sites where stoneflies were not found. So as you can see, the most stoneflies were found in the more upper reaches of our watershed. We have also, they were found at 58% of sites. So a pretty good percentage of sites had success finding stoneflies, which is a great indicator for our watershed. Coming up this month on Saturday, February 1st, we're going to have the 2025 stonefly search. So if you're interested at all in getting out in the water in February with proper equipment, of course, you can visit our website and register. And then our final highlight of the 2024 season is the Adopt a Stream program. I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with this program, but it's a volunteer water quality monitoring program that occurs every May and October. And in this program, volunteers head out all over the watershed to collect bugs and assess habitat conditions. And the data and bugs collected through this program are then analyzed by us at CRWC to determine water quality at the sites. In 2024, we had what we noted as 307 amazing volunteers participate in the program, and their efforts led to 90 sampling events across the watershed. And these are all photos from 2024. And as you can see, they had a really great time sampling, getting their feet wet. And we just wanted to say thank you so much for all of your work and your dedication to this watershed and to this program. We really appreciate it. And we can't wait to see everyone again in 2025. And that wraps up the 2024 accomplishments section, which I'm now going to hand over to Lydia to actually dive into the data portion.
Awesome. Thanks, Michaela. So yes, as Michaela mentioned, we'll get started on going into some of the data that those wonderful 307 volunteers collected for Adopt a Stream in 2024. So in 2024, we were able to monitor at 50 unique sites across the watershed. This is an improvement from 2023 when we got 49 unique sites done. And in both spring and fall, we were able to monitor more sites. So we were able to monitor 49 sites in the spring and 41 sites in the fall. And this also included losing a site due to access and adding a new site that was dropped off at some point in time. So while the sites are constantly changing, we are seeing an improvement, and it's thanks to the support of all of our wonderful volunteers that we're able to get so many sites monitored across the watershed. As for the bugs collected, there was a lot of bugs collected this year. So that represented 85 different families of bugs. So this is a higher level of identification than had been used in previous years, which helps us gain a better understanding of the water quality. So it's awesome to see such a great diversity of bugs collected. This included 13 families of sensitive bugs. So these are bugs that had a very low pollution tolerance. And so finding these bugs are a great sign for water quality, and especially that we're finding many different families at the same site is really exciting to see. So this is a great sign for our watershed health. Through our Adopt a Stream program, volunteers report back to us with different things such as river conditions, site changes. They tell us about the bugs that they're finding and the sampling conditions. So this year, some of the common commentary that we got was that in our October monitoring, many sites saw low flow due to the lack of rain that we had in September and August in that later summer season. So many of the sites were significantly lower than prior, which can influence the bugs that we find there. They also reported new woodfall, and some reported the changing in access to sites. So maybe the path is getting a little grown over. And we really appreciate having that information so that we can go out and make sure that sites are accessible. Despite field identification no longer being required, many of our volunteers still enjoy figuring out what exactly they caught. And so we got some really awesome lists from our volunteers of the different bugs that they caught and how many of them, which is awesome, as well as some great photos. There was a lot of awesome photos sent this year. And then they also, the sampling conditions, for some sites, it was, noting that they were unable to access a certain corner of where they normally monitor because the water was deeper this spring with some heavy rains. And then, noting how much effort that they put into sampling in terms of time, the amount of time that they spent catching the bugs, and the number of people that they had in the river. as well as the weather conditions, whether it was sunny or rainy and had been in the days prior. And all of this kind of gives us some more context to the bugs that are sent in, which is super helpful to have. Getting a bit into the sub-watershed results here. Here is our site map that we had of the sites we were able to monitor in 2024. And so we break down each sub-watershed into their number of sites monitored. In total, we had 50 sites, and we were able to revive a couple of old sites that had dropped off just because of our volunteers. We were able to get those sites teamed up. And so we had one site in Anchor Bay, 10 in Clinton River East, which is that periwinkle color that leads to the Lake St. Clair, the Clinton Main, which is the blue section, the Upper Clinton featuring the headwaters, Lake St. Clair direct drainage, the North Branch, Paint Creek, which we partner with Stony Creek as well, and then the Red Run. Due to changes in MICOR that occurred in 2022, now our teams are required to send back their samples to be ID'd to a higher level than they were previously ID'd to. So this is a push we've been doing to return more bugs, because we can only score based on the bugs that are returned. So this year we were able to score, or we had less samples that were automatically qualified. So what happens is if you send back less than 60 bugs, you get an automatic fairly poor rating. And if you send back less than 30 bugs, you get an automatic very poor scoring. And that's due to the abundance. If you're not seeing a lot of bugs, oftentimes that's not a good sign of water quality. And we're able to only go based off of what we have. So this year there was 22 monitoring events that had less than 60 bugs, and then 15 more that had less than 30. But this is a great improvement that we had since 2023. There was one site that had a calculated score that was high or lower than the automatic score. And then one site.
No, looks like we lost Lydia for a second. See if they can hop back on here. All right, I'm going to see if Lydia can hop on their phone. Their computer is doing an update, so they're trying to get back on here.
Hello, can people hear me?
Yes, you're back.
Okay, wonderful. I apologize. Technology always seems to update at the worst times. Anyway, so as I was saying, we're able to learn a lot about the water quality based on the amount of bugs that are sent back. And this can be seen in one site where the calculated score based on the pollution tolerance of the bugs collected was 4.52. But because there was less than 30 bugs sent back, it automatically was scored a 10 due to the abundance. Next slide, please. Starting out with the Upper Clinton subwatershed, you can see this area highlighted in the map in the upper right-hand corner. Most of the bugs found here fell in that good to fair range, which is really awesome and what we expect to see in the headwaters. Site UC3, which monitors Sachabaw Creek, had the greatest diversity of any site that was monitored in 2024, with a total of 27 different families observed. Next slide. On this, we have highlighted the sites that were auto-scored due to abundance. And so those sites have stars on the graph as to where their score would be if they were at 60 or more bugs collected. And so you can see here that the range of values would improve greatly with abundance. And instead of being the good to fair range, it would be very good to fair. Just highlighting again that importance of sending the samples back in for identification. Next slide, please. Onto the Clinton, Maine subwatershed. So in the Clinton, Maine, a lot of these sites are on the main branch of the Clinton River. In 2023, there was abundance issues in 53% of the monitoring events, but in 2024, there was only abundance issues at 19% of the monitoring events, which is a significant improvement. And we really see that in the data collected and overall, the Clinton, Maine subwatershed trended higher. The notable thing was that during the stonefly search in 2024, one small winter stonefly was found in Avon Creek, which is site CM9. And this was the first time that stonefly was ever found in Avon Creek, which is a great sign for the water quality there. Next slide, please. Again, we just wanted to highlight that range that the data would be if there were no abundance issues, and that would put the Clinton, Maine subwatershed in the very good to fair range, which is outside of some of those fairly poor and very poor qualified sites that we have right now. Next slide. The Stony Creek and Paint Creek subwatershed, we combine the two just because they have very similar attributes and they're both really awesome qualities streams. So across the board, we are still seeing some abundance issues, especially at these sites. But there is improvement as well. So in 2023, there was abundance issues at 58% of sites, and then in 2024, it was only 46% were hit with that abundance qualifier score. So that's a really awesome improvement, and we'd like to see that continue to improve. because we know that these are some great quality streams and we want to be collecting accurate data. One highlight was that in the fall, a northern brook lamprey, which is one of our native lamprey that we have in the Great Lakes region, was collected or observed in Paint Creek upstream of Kings Cove Bridge. And it's pretty rare that you can catch or see a lamprey, be it invasive or native. So it was really awesome that our volunteers got to see a native lamprey. Next slide. The average of the true values represented by the bar graphs put this subwatershed in the fairly poor range, whereas the projected calculated score that is represented by the stars would put the Stony Creek and Paint Creek subwatershed in the good range. And so again, it's just, we want to get those bugs back so we actually have an accurate understanding of the water quality within these sites, especially when it's such a drastic difference from fairly poor to good. Next slide, please. Moving on to the Clinton River East and the Red Run subwatersheds. These two subwatersheds are in the more urban areas of our watershed, and so there's not as many accessible sites, which is why we have these two combined on this graph. There were some interesting trends here. Through 10, the fall scores have been lower than the spring scores for the last couple years. So that would potentially be worth looking into. While it was, they did collect less than 30 bugs there, the bugs that were collected were also very low scoring or poor scoring. So we'll be curious to see if that trend continues and potentially look into why that may be. Another notable thing with this graph here is you'll notice that on Crew 12, there's the star for the calculated score is actually lower than the abundance qualifier. So this is a site that you don't see often, where the abundance qualifier, they had less than 60, but more than 30. However, the tolerance of the bugs collected had this site in the spring scored lower than that abundance qualifier. And again, we'll be able to get some more accurate data and have a better idea once that abundance is taken out of the equation there. An exciting note, though, was that 3 mussels were observed in the middle branch, which is runs through Waldenburg Park in Macomb. And so mussels are another thing that we don't often get to see out there. So it's really awesome that our volunteers got to observe those. Next slide, please. Again, here's that projected range just based on the tolerance values of the bugs found at these sites. Some of the low scores may be from bias while picking, as some of those low scoring bugs are larger or more slow moving. But again, the only way that we'll really be able to see these trends and figure out a true representation of the water quality is with time and repetition of this monitoring. So we'll be curious to see how these sites change in the future. And again, like I mentioned, both of these subwatersheds run through the most urban parts of our watersheds, and so that also explains some of the lower scores we're seeing. Next slide, please. Moving on to our Anchor Bay, Lake St. Clair, and North Branch subwatersheds. We have one site in the Anchor Bay subwatershed and one site in the Lake St. Clair direct drainage subwatershed. So those two sites are points on the map in the upper right, whereas the North Branch subwatershed is highlighted as there's more sites throughout the watershed. The Anchor Bay site, AB1, is a site that was revived in fall 2023. So we're still kind of getting a feel for that site and what that site should look like, but we're pretty pleased with what we found so far. The Lake St. Clair direct drainage site, LSC4, is a site where abundance is regularly an issue, but we feel that it's because of the habitat or lack thereof at that site. But an exciting note was that in the fall, there was an improvement for the first time in many years. So we saw more bugs in terms of abundance and in terms of better quality, which is great to see. And there was also 5 common stoneflies that were collected from site NB16 in the spring. So that wasn't even during stonefly search when we're looking for stoneflies. This was during our regular spring monitoring that happens in May. Site NB16 is at Camp Rotary, which is a beautiful place and a great habitat. So it's awesome to see that they're thriving there. Next slide, please. Sites AB1 and LSC4 are both in rather urbanized parts and see a lot of influence from the non-point source pollution as a result. And the North Branch goes through the more agricultural areas, which also faces some non-point source pollution. And so this can kind of explain some of the lower scores that we see here. But all in all, these are about what we expect to see, and that range is very hopeful for us. Next slide, please. On to our watershed results summary. And so again, you'll see that distribution map of where our sites were located. Overall, in 2024, we had 0 sites that were scored in the excellent category, but we did have 25 sites in the very good to good, along with 46 in the fair to fairly poor and 19 in the poor to very poor, which for an overall urbanized watershed, this is about what we would expect. And the fact that most of our sites fell in that very good, good, and fairly poor, that's a great sign and what we kind of hope to see, while we do want it to continuously improve and hope that once abundance issues or once abundance improves, that those scores will improve as well. So overall, we're pretty pleased with how the watershed scored in 2024. Now, if anyone has any questions on the data, we'd be happy to answer. All of this will be written out in a report as well that will be released, and we'll send that out to our volunteers once that's finished. So we're still in the process of writing that report, but you will have that as well if you're interested for a deeper dive.
Yeah, thanks, Lydia. I want to give it just a second for questions before moving on to the next section, and we'll have some more opportunities for questions after that. All right, I'm not seeing any hands. There's some things in the chat here. We have just wondering if there are multiple invertebrates on a rock in the river. If we take a photo of the abundance, do we need to collect all the insects on the rock? This is different from the past practices. So for this one, we want to take a representative sample from the stream, so sampling all different habitats and getting a sample of those bugs. You wouldn't need to take them all from the rock, but unfortunately, photos alone we can't take unless they're large, rare photo vouchers for large, rare macroinvertebrates. Those have just been added to the MyCore exceptions through that program, but in terms of just general macroinvertebrates, we just want a representative sample of those on a rock. And then in general, we need more than 60 bugs per site in order to score it in terms of the abundance that Lydia was mentioning. We have a question if we're wondering if site-specific results are available. And yes, we do have site-specific results. I'm just in a second here going to highlight our new data dashboard where you can actually interact with those results. But like Lydia said, we'll have that annual report coming out as well, or the Adopt a Stream report.
And if anyone ever wants to get into the nitty-gritty of what families were actually found there, feel free to reach out to me, and I would be happy to talk more about bugs with you.
And then we have a question. Do you think the low abundance scores are because species are truly not abundant in these areas? Or do you think it's due to underreporting? Lydia, you want to take a stab at that one? I also have Lydia's contact information at the end for you, Samantha. The underreporting versus abundance scores, I think there's certain sites where bugs just aren't abundant, but in some of those higher quality sites, we'd expect to see more bugs. So I think there's a little bit of a mix of both. And yes, we can get the MyCore specs. I believe they're on the website, but we can follow up with that and as well on the water penny scoring. I know Lydia and I have been talking to the MyCore folks about this one. So if anyone has more questions, I'm going to have a few minutes at the end, but I just want to make sure we don't miss out on the data dashboard. So I'm going to scooch to that real fast. All right, so our 2025 data dashboard debut, too many twos there. So we are very excited to be launching our new data dashboard for the Adopt a Stream program. So pictured here is a screenshot of what that data dashboard looks like. It was developed by Midstory in collaboration with us here at CRWC. And this dashboard is an interactive mapping tool that allows you to view current and historical Adopt a Stream data by site. And this means that the data that some of you have collected is now publicly accessible and allows for everyone to see water quality trends over time. So we're really, really excited about this. In the following slides, I'm going to walk you through how to launch the dashboard on your computer and show you some of the navigation and features. So in order to launch the dashboard itself, you'll want to follow the steps shown in the colored boxes on screen there. You want to head to our website, crwc.org. Once you get there, you'll see that top ribbon that says About Us, Programs, Events Programs. You hover or click on that Programs section and then select Adopt a Stream, and that'll take you to the Adopt a Stream page. If you scroll down on that page, you'll see this section come up. It's called Adopt a Stream Data Dashboard. and it's right above that past monitoring data section. And you'll see it has an orange button that says Launch Data Dashboard. So you'll want to click that button there, and that will launch the dashboard up in a new tab. So once you've clicked on that, you'll see a screen that looks like this come up on your screen. So there should be a map that has a watershed with dots, a list of sites, and then a series of graphs on the right-hand side. So I got a few slides coming up here. I'm going to show you how to navigate this as well as interact with some of that data. So first I'm going to talk about site selection. So there are several ways to select or search a site that you're looking for on the dashboard. You can type it into that box shown by that top arrow on the left. You can scroll and select from that list that's below the search box, or you can select a site on the map itself. The one note about selecting the site on the map itself, that will tell you the site's information, but it won't officially change the dashboard to that site. So you do need to use that information that pops up to search or scroll and select that site from the list on the left. So a little bit of a glitch there, but once you select a site, it'll show up with that blue box around it, like that Stony Creek SP15 at Van Hoosen Museum is showing up right now. And it shows up as an orange dot on the map as well. That map on screen is zoomable, so you can use those plus and minus buttons shown on the screen there to zoom in and out of the map. You could also use your scroll or pinch on your trackpad or on your mouse if you have those available to zoom in and out. Once you select a site, you can begin to look at water quality trends over time. One thing to note here is that the dashboard currently has 2 years of data available. And this is because the water quality scoring changed in the MyCore procedure. So historically, sites were scored on a 0 to 10 scale, and that was based on insect orders. And this had 10 being the highest water quality. But now sites are scored on a 0 to 10 scale based on insect family instead of order, and 10 is the lowest water quality instead of the highest. So a complete flip of the scale that was previously. So this means that our historical scores need to be standardized and digitized before they can be added to this dashboard. So this is something we're working on, but it's going to take some time. But we do have that 2 years of data up and active on our website, and wanted to make sure to get this dashboard out there. So in that blue box shown on screen, you can see the average water quality value graphic there. It has a score with that green bar, so it's telling you that the average water quality for this site is 4.3. And then it is on the right there is all the monitoring events, and it shows you the water quality value, so the number, and the water quality score. So what that number means in terms of very good, good, and that scale. Moving over to our right-hand graphics, the last portion of the data dashboard, you can investigate site-specific trends over time. And these trends include total macroinvertebrate abundance, total macroinvertebrate diversity, insect diversity, EPT or mayfly, caddisfly, and stonefly taxa diversity, and sensitive taxa diversity. And on those graphs on the right, they all list that specific metric at the top there in bold, and then it has a definition of what that metric means. So how does total macro diversity change from insect diversity is explained there on the graph. And these graphs are quite small on the view that you initially come to, but if you hover over the graphs, there will be a button that appears on the top right-hand corner where you can expand the graph into a full screen view. So that is just a little tip in case you want to get a closer look at those small graphs, and that's should be a function available for those water quality scores as well. So that's our data dashboard. So we're really excited about this and have been waiting to make it public, and it's now available on our website, and it's going to be expanding and improving over time. But we just wanted to exemplify how that water quality data is being used and being made more publicly accessible through this program. Any questions on the dashboard itself? Is the data dashboard available for download? I believe not yet. Does that sound right, Lydia?
Believe so, but we would like to work towards that. And then, is it okay to copy this dashboard page for a site that you worked on? Yeah, as long as you're kind of telling people where that came from. Yeah, you can take this information. We want to use it as a communication tool. So we're happy to have you share it with friends, with family, with coworkers, whoever it may be that you're trying to share that data and information with. We really are excited to make it publicly accessible and want to continue to spread the word.
Thank you, Samantha. We thought it was beautiful and useful too, so we appreciate your note on that. All right, I'm gonna kick it over to Lydia just to highlight our volunteer opportunities, but we'll have time at the end for questions for anyone who wants to stay on.
Awesome. Yep. So we have some exciting events coming up. As Michaela mentioned at the beginning of this presentation, Stonefly is a great time to get out there and get in the water, even when there's snow on the ground. And so that will be happening on February 1st. So we'll meet at the CRWC office, do a quick training, and then break out to our different sites. Registration for this is live on our website, and we would love to see you out there. Also, a save the date. This isn't so much a volunteer event. Our annual meeting is coming up on March 13th, and it should be a good one. So we hope to see you at that event as well. And then looking out into the spring a little more, our weekly clean program, which Michaela also highlighted in the beginning there, that will be picking up on April 2nd. And then it will continue throughout the year until the fall. So we'd love to see you out at a park or somewhere else cleaning up some trash around the watershed on Wednesday mornings. And then our Adopt a Stream dates are already set. It will be the first Saturday in May, which is May 3rd. So mark your calendars for that one, because we couldn't do this without all of our wonderful volunteers. So we would love to get you and your buddies in a river collecting bugs out there in May. And then in April, we will have some awesome Earth Day events. So at the Burgess Shadbush Nature Center, we'll have our annual invasive jet bead pull. But we are also moving our Clinton cleanup to Earth Day. So there will be a lot of cleanup locations around the watershed happening. If you are looking to get engaged in a cleanup, keep an eye out for those, or feel free to reach out for the to us to get plugged in with a cleanup near you. Awesome. Well, thank you all for joining us this evening. And again, if you have any questions, we would be happy to answer, and a recording will be shared within the next few days here.
All right, there's that contact information I alluded to earlier there for Lydia, as well as mine as well. But yeah, if anyone has any additional questions, I know it was not the most time for questions in that short before the data dashboard. So feel free to ask away.